College Football Update with your host, Sean Spencer and Alex Loosemore.
And look, let's move on down the list because one guy, so unfortunately, will no longer be playing for the Florida State University. Jordan Travis, I'm not going to even show you that clip. If you did not see the injury, I would not recommend you going to watch it if you have a weak stomach. It was rough. And Alex, man, I feel for him, man. That just you hate to see that happen, and it's just like right at the end of the season, they're on such a run. What does this mean for him and for the team, man?
For him, it's so tough because, like you said in the headline there down below, he said he's done with Florida State. That was his last game as a Seminole. Whether that means he's going to the NFL or he's going to be a grad transfer, who knows? Or is he playing again? We don't know. Right. Because of that kind of injury. For NFL people, it reminded me very much of Dak Prescott a couple years ago. Yes. It was that similar look. Right away, that leg was bent down where it should not bend. It was awful. And for a guy like that who's busted his tail for years and years, and Florida State's up at the pinnacle of college football in that playoff and fighting to stay in that playoff, and that happens, like you said, week 12. That, just as a football fan, that hurt. Yeah. That was tough to watch. The way he's responded since then, like he was at the hospital, they're dealing with everything, and he's got the game on his phone watching. He's still rooting his team on. Yep. He is the epitome of what a leader should be. What it means for the team, they responded well because they were not playing well against North Alabama before he got hurt. They responded. I think they'll continue to fight for him. I think they'll finish undefeated. I think they'll beat Florida this weekend, and I think they beat Louisville next weekend. Whether the committee will put Florida State into the playoff without Jordan Travis remains to be seen.
Yes,
but I feel for Jordan Travis, for Florida State, for those fans, for the team. That is such a massive blow and a brutal spot to be in.
I hate to see something like this from a guy at any point in his career, much less the senior season, or less just this type of season, and then towards the end of the season. But and I'm going to read this comment in a second, but I also had a feel, because Florida State has been down for so many years. You know, we talk about that game that they lost a couple years back to Jacksonville State, and Jacksonville State had just made the move to NCAA and to FBS. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was that first year or maybe their last year at FCS.
I think last FCS.
Yeah, we had just seen how far they had fallen, and for them to come up to this and have the season that they had, there was a part of me, and I hate saying this, but there was part of me that was always kind of this year saying, when's the shoe going to drop? When is FSU going to kind of choke it up? Like, are they really back? And every game I was like, prove it. And I hate for it to go down like this. I'm hoping they can continue. Ben says, I really hate to say this, but I'm actually not shocked this happened to Jordan Travis. His style of play and the size makes him more vulnerable to these types of injuries. I was hoping this wouldn't have happened. I feel for the guy. Yeah.
Well, and it was just that unfortunate tackle too. It was the big guy trying to make the tackle, and he's basically just forcing his weight on him to try and crumble him, and just the way that leg was kind of contacting the turf, it just snapped. Like, it was so unfortunate. See, and I expected something like an ACL, an ankle, like a ligaments in his ankle, something like that. I didn't necessarily expect the break, but you do expect that kind of stuff to happen with these mobile quarterbacks, the smaller stature. And as far as the whole like Florida State this season, I felt right off the bat like they were a playoff team. I had them in my playoff 4, if I'm not mistaken, right off the bat. But I thought they were a semifinalist. I didn't legitimately think national championship, but I thought they were one of the 4 best teams in the country. That sucks. From a football perspective.
Right. And as far as the committee is concerned, I mean, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. At the moment, they have them right outside the top 4. They have them at 5. But look, like we've talked about, they still have Benson at running back, who's been balling recently. They still have Keon Coleman, who we've been talking about potentially getting Heisman hype. Jared Verse on defense. They have speed. They have power. There's a reason these guys are undefeated and are playing so well. Jordan Travis is a part of that, but they have a nice set of players, an elite team. That's the reason why they're up there. So I definitely think as long as they continue to win, they should be considered. And their play, their style of play, all that stuff played in. I just fear that the backup, who I think it's Roadmaker. Yeah. That's their backup. I fear that him being in there might, and we'll see. He did find the rest of the way here, but I fear him being in there might be the deciding factor, and I hate that.
Yeah. Now, I think if they run the table, if the committee is doing what they are supposed to do, FSU will be that 4th team. As long as they win out, I do still feel like they'd push Washington or Oregon if Oregon runs the table the rest of the way and beats Washington next week and Oregon State this week. I do believe they'd push Oregon to number 3. Potentially a 1-loss Texas if they win the Big 12 might go to number 3 over Florida State. I don't know. I hope if Florida State runs the table that they get in, but it's kind of iffy to me.
Yeah. So and a lot of it again plays onto what everything else of the other teams do. Washington, if Michigan, or Ohio State, whoever gets that in, obviously the Alabama, and then that's the Ohio State and Alabama, Ohio State and Michigan. They could potentially be knocked out. Then do you bring in an FSU, or then what about the Oregon game? God, there's so many things that could play out right now. But it's gonna be interesting to see how these last couple weeks play out, because this week is important. The conference championship is important, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, you have to win out yourselves. So FSU, if you want that shot to get in there, you guys have to take care of business. Period. Point blank.
For Ben's last comment there, FSU gets in, if that's the scenario. Michigan, with the schedule they had this season, has to win out to get in. If they lose to Ohio State, if they lose to Iowa, they could potentially get in, beating Penn State, beating Ohio State. I still don't like their chances in that scenario. But if they lose to Ohio State, don't even make the conference championship game, they're toast for playoffs.
Yeah. So these next couple weeks are extremely important. But to Jordan Travis, man, we wish you the best. We hope for a speedy recovery, man, and just focus on whatever your next move is. You have left a great legacy at Florida State, man. You rised up through there, and hey, I'm glad I was able to see you play. Hopefully, we continue to see you play in the future, man. Oh,
yeah,
man.
100%.